Lisa Carter had woken up in a lot of strange places in her life. A stalled Ferris wheel at a county fair, the roof of her college dorm after a bad dare, the back of a broken-down tractor in her uncle's cornfield, but never on a floating slab inside an alien spaceship. She sat up slowly, pressing her palm against the smooth, metallic surface. It was slightly warm to the touch, as if the floor itself was alive. Overhead, bluish-white lights pulsed rhythmically, giving the whole room an unsettling, sterile glow. Then she saw them. 3 towering figures loomed in front of her, insectoid but eerily humanoid, standing on digitigrade legs that bent at unnatural angles. Their glossy black exoskeletons shimmered under the artificial light, and their long, clawed fingers twitched in a way Lisa didn't like one bit. One of them took a step forward. It was taller than the others, its multifaceted eyes shifting colors, its mandibles clicking in a deliberate mechanical rhythm. Human, you have been taken for strategic leverage. Lisa blinked. Excuse me? Your capture ensures your species' compliance. The one designated Jack Carter will comply with our demands for your safe return. Lisa rubbed her temples. Okay, couple of things. First, who the hell are you? The alien hesitated, as if confused by the question. We are the Zelver Dominion. Lisa nodded, still groggy. All right, Zelver Dominion. Here's my follow-up. Do you guys have any idea who you just kidnapped? Silence. Lisa sighed and slowly swung her legs over the side of the floating slab. You think my husband is going to roll over and play nice because you grabbed me? She chuckled. Oh, you have no idea what you've done. The aliens exchanged glances. That was never a good sign. The leader straightened. Irrelevant. Your mate's emotional distress will ensure cooperation. Lisa let out a sharp, barking laugh. Oh, buddy, you got that completely backwards. Jack's not the negotiate under pressure type. He's the burn down your house for looking at me funny type. The alien's mandibles clicked in irritation. Unlikely. We have studied human behavior. Your species values familial units. The survival of the mate takes priority over retaliation. Lisa smirked. That might be true for some people. But Jack... She leaned forward, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Jack is going to ruin your entire civilization. The aliens did not react. They should have. Because light years away, Jack Carter was already making that promise a reality. Jack Carter's very bad day. Jack Carter stood in his garage, staring up at the gaping hole in his ceiling. The hole hadn't been there this morning. In fact, most of the roof hadn't been missing when he'd kissed Lisa goodnight. But now, a jagged, scorched wound gaped open to the Indiana sky, and Lisa was gone. His gut twisted in a way he didn't like. He'd seen a lot of combat in his lifetime. Too much, but this was something else. He forced himself to breathe slow, steady. Find the facts. Establish a plan. Execute. Right now, the only fact that mattered was Lisa had been taken, and he was getting her back. A soft ahem pulled him from his thoughts. Jack turned to see 3 people standing awkwardly in his wrecked garage. One was a sharp-dressed woman in a lab coat, tapping impatiently on a tablet. She had an intelligent, no-nonsense air about her, like someone used to barking orders in high-pressure situations. Next to her stood a skinny, wide-eyed man in a sweater vest, looking distinctly out of place, and a grinning, wild-haired guy in a bomber jacket, hands shoved into his pockets. Jack arched an eyebrow. Can I help you? The woman stepped forward. Mr. Carter, my name is Dr. Amelia Vasquez. I work with NASA, technically DARPA, monitoring extraterrestrial threats. Your wife was abducted by an alien species called a Zelver approximately 2 hours ago. Jack didn't blink. I know. Dr. Vasquez hesitated. You know? Jack pointed at the hole in his ceiling. Figured it wasn't raccoons. The man in the sweater vest raised a hand. I'm Reggie Patel. Linguistics and cultural analysis. I do translations. The guy in the bomber jacket grinned. Marcus O'Donnell. But everyone calls me Sparky. I blow things up. Jack exhaled slowly. And you're here because... Dr. Vasquez straightened. Because we're going after her. Jack's fingers twitched at his sides. Good. Then let's move. Reggie blinked. Wait, just like that? No questions. Jack's expression was pure steel. There's only one question that matters. How fast can we get off this planet? Sparky's grin widened. Oh, I like him. The plan. Dr. Vasquez pulled up a holographic projection, displaying a massive Zelver mothership floating beyond Mars. This is where they're holding her, she explained. It's heavily guarded, but the Zelver are overconfident. They think we're too primitive to retaliate. Jack's jaw tightened. They're about to learn otherwise. Sparky chuckled. I love this guy. Vasquez ignored him. We have an experimental spacecraft, a retrofitted shuttle with stolen alien tech. We'll use it to breach their defenses, get inside, extract Lisa, and get out before they realize what's happening. Jack nodded. Fine. Just one problem. Reggie looked up. What's that? Jack's eyes were dark, determined. I don't plan on running. Silence. Then Sparky let out a low whistle. Oh ho ho. This is going to be fun. Final scene. Meanwhile, on the Zelver ship, Lisa sat cross-legged in her containment cell, staring at the Zelver technician, who'd been unlucky enough to be assigned to monitor her. So, what's your name, buddy? She asked casually. The alien twitched nervously. Car. Lisa nodded. Cool. So, tell me, Car, how long do you think it'll take before my husband shows up and wrecks this place? Car swallowed. Your mate is a primitive human. He poses no threat. Lisa grinned. Oh, sweetie, that's adorable. Somewhere, across the void of space, Jack Carter was proving her right, and the Zelver had no idea what was coming for them. Jack Carter sat in the cockpit of the ugliest spacecraft he had ever seen. The thing looked like a NASA shuttle had a drunken one-night stand with a junkyard. Its patchwork hull was reinforced with mismatched alien alloys. An exposed wire along the dashboard looked one bad jolt away from disaster. The cockpit smelled like burnt rubber. And was that duct tape on the throttle? He turned to Dr. Emilia Vasquez, who was strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. This thing actually flies? Vasquez shot him a withering look. It's held together by scientific genius and sheer spite. So yes, it flies. Behind them, Sparky let out a hoot as he ran a final check on the ship's customized thrusters. Oh, it doesn't just fly. It'll punch a hole through reality if we need it to. Jack didn't doubt that. Meanwhile, Reggie Patel sat awkwardly in the back, adjusting his translator headset. He looked deeply out of place, more professor than soldier. But Jack had seen the way his mind worked. The guy was sharp, and they'd need his expertise in alien communication. Just to clarify, Reggie said hesitantly, we're attempting an unlicensed, unsanctioned interstellar infiltration mission against a hostile alien empire using a ship built from stolen technology, held together by salvage parts, and piloted by people who definitely aren't astronauts. That about sums it up, Jack said, adjusting his harness. Reggie let out a nervous laugh. Just wanted to make sure I didn't imagine it. Relax, bookworm, Sparky said, tossing him a thumbs up. What's the worst that could happen? Reggie opened his mouth to answer, but thought better of it. Blast off, a ride built for chaos. Sparky flicked a few switches, and the engines roared to life, vibrating the entire ship. The dashboard lit up with blinking warnings in multiple languages, none of them particularly reassuring. Everyone strapped in? Vasquez called over the noise. Wait, are we seriously doing this? Right now? Reggie yelped. Jack tightened his harness. Either we go now, or we waste time talking about it. I don't waste time. Sparky cackled. See, this is why I like you. He slammed the ignition lever forward, and the ship lurched violently as the thrusters kicked in. Jack felt the raw force of acceleration slam him into his seat as the ship rocketed straight through the atmosphere at speed that would have made NASA physicists weep. The blue sky burned away into blackness, and within moments, they were breaking Earth's gravitational pull. Then everything went horribly wrong. A sudden, ear-splitting alarm blared to the cockpit, and the ship veered hard to the left, throwing everyone sideways. What the hell was that? Jack growled, gripping the armrests. Sparky was grinning way too much for someone in a life-or-death situation. Ha! One of the stabilizers just detached. Shouldn't you sound a little more concerned? Reggie yelped. Buddy, If I got concerned every time this ship almost killed me, I'd never get anything done. Less talking, more fixing. Vasquez barked, punching at controls. Sparky grabbed a wrench. Why was there a wrench in the cockpit? And started slamming it against a nearby console. Jack was about to yell at him for definitely making things worse when, somehow, the ship steadied itself. The alarms quieted. The thrusters re-engaged. Jack exhaled. That's it? That's your fix? You hit it. Works on my car, Sparky said with a shrug. Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. We're gonna die. A problem called the Zelver. A few hours later, the ship was coasting through the black void of space, making its final approach toward the Zelver mothership. The Zelver ship was a monstrous, obsidian leviathan, covered in jagged ridges of alien metal. It hung in orbit above Mars like some ancient war god, bristling with enough weaponry to vaporize a continent. Reggie gulped. Well, that's bigger than I expected. That's what she said, Sparky muttered. Vasquez ignored him. They haven't detected us yet, she said, checking her readings. Our stolen cloaking tech is holding. Jack's gaze remained locked on the ship. Lisa was in there. He leaned forward. Let's go get her. Vasquez nodded, guiding their ship toward one of the docking bays. They slipped into the bay undetected, landing behind a row of Zelver fighter craft. Jack unbuckled. All right, we going quiet. Get Lisa. Get out. Sparky cracked his knuckles. Define quiet. Jack glared. Do not blow anything up. Sparky pouted. Fine. The airlock hissed open, revealing the cold, metallic corridors of the Zelver warship. The mission had begun. Meanwhile, in the holding cell, Lisa Carter had officially had enough of her alien captors. She'd been interrogated, boring, threatened, yawned, and forced to listen to their convoluted invasion plans. Honestly, it sounded like a logistical nightmare. Now she sat in her glass wall containment cell, staring at the car, her assigned Zelver guard. You guys are really bad at kidnapping, she informed him. The car twitched. Silence, human. Lisa stretched her arms. You know my husband's coming for me, right? The car scoffed. Your mate is an insignificant primitive. He will not breach the Dominion's defenses. Lisa grinned. Buddy, Jack once fought an entire biker gang because they dented his truck. And those were humans. You are just an extra special kind of stupid. The car shifted uncomfortably. Even if he attempts to rescue, he will be outnumbered and outmatched. Lisa smirked. Oh, honey, you think he's coming alone. And as if on cue, boom. The ship shuddered violently as something exploded nearby. Alarm screeched. Red lights flashed. The car froze in shock. Lisa's grin widened. Well, looks like my ride's here. She cracked her knuckles. Time to make some noise. Jack Carter moved like a shadow through the dimly lit corridors of the Zelver mothership, his breath steady, his mind locked on one goal, getting Lisa back. Behind him, Vasquez, Sparky, and Reggie followed in tight formation, each armed with stolen plasma rifles. They'd managed to breach the hull undetected, slipping in through an auxiliary docking bay. Jack's grip tightened on his weapon. So far, so good. All right, Vasquez whispered, checking her scanner. Lisa's being held 2 levels above us, in what looks like a high-security block. If we keep to maintenance tunnels, we might... A loud clatter echoed down the hall. Everyone froze. Slowly. They turned to look at Sparky, who was standing over a knocked-over tray of alien tools, hands raised in guilty surrender. Sparky winced. That wasn't me? Klaxons erupted through the ship. Jack sighed. Fantastic. The worst elevator ride ever. They sprinted toward a cylindrical gravity lift. The fastest way up. Looks like it's biometrically locked, Vasquez muttered, studying the glowing panel. We need a Zelver to activate it. Jack glanced at the corridor behind them. A squad of Zelver soldiers was already charging in, plasma rifles raised. Good news, he muttered. We're about to get one. He grabbed the nearest fallen Zelver, slammed the alien's clawed hand onto the scanner, and prayed. The system chirped in approval. The lift flared to life, shooting them upward just as plasma fire rained down from below. Reggie clutched the railing. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Jack barely heard him. His mind was on Lisa. Meanwhile, in the holding cell, Lisa Carter had been busy. The moment she woke up in the cold, sterile cell, she knew Jack would come. But Lisa wasn't one to sit around and wait for a rescue, which is why, at this exact moment, her Zelver guard was unconscious on the floor, courtesy of Lisa's right hook to his mandibles. "Sorry, buddy," she muttered, shaking out her fist. "Didn't mean to hit you that hard." Lisa turned to the control panel outside her cell. It was alien technology, sure, but Lisa had spent years fixing ancient, barely functioning machinery back on Earth. She cracked her knuckles. "All right, let's see what we got here." A few snipped wires later, the panel hissed open. Lisa grinned. Then she heard footsteps. A full Zelver security team was closing in. Lisa sighed, grabbed the unconscious guard's plasma rifle, and muttered, "All right, Plan B." The reunion, sort of. Jack burst into the detention block, just in time to see Lisa slam a rifle, but into a Zelver's gut before drop-kicking another into the wall. He skidded to a stop, blinking. Lisa turned, saw Jack, and smirked. "Took you long enough." Jack opened his mouth, then closed it, then pointed at the unconscious Zelver. "You stole a gun?" Lisa shrugged. "They stole me first." Sparky grinned. "Oh, I like her." Lisa tossed him a spare rifle. "Catch." Sparky caught it with glee. "I love her." Reggie, still gasping for breath, muttered, "This is way beyond my skill set." Vasquez interrupted. "Guys, we have a problem." Everyone turned. At the far end of the hall, a massive bulkhead rumbled open, revealing the largest, most armored Zelver they had ever seen, flanked by a full battalion of elite soldiers. Lisa exhaled. "Well, that's unfortunate." Jack raised his rifle. "Not for long." And just like that, the real fight began. Jack didn't hesitate. The second the massive Zelver warlord stepped to the bulkhead, flanked by at least 20 heavily armed soldiers, Jack did the only logical thing. He opened fire. A hail of plasma bolts erupted from his stolen rifle, and the corridor exploded into chaos. Lisa was already moving, her stolen blaster spitting blue streaks of energy as she dove behind cover. Vasquez activated an electromagnetic shield, absorbing a deadly volley from the advancing Zelver soldiers. "We are officially outnumbered and outgunned," she shouted. Sparky cackled, whipping out a small metallic orb from his belt. "Good thing I never listen when you tell me not to bring explosives." He flung the device into the center of the Zelver ranks. The moment it hit the floor, the orb cracked open, unleashing a pulsing gravitational wave that sent the first wave of soldiers flying into the walls like rag dolls. Reggie, crouching behind a control console, peered out. That is not a grenade. What did you just throw?" Sparky grinned. "Experimental tech. Jury-rigged it myself." Reggie groaned. "I hate everything about that sentence." Jack ignored them, eyes locked on the warlord, who, unlike the others, had barely budged from the shockwave. The Zelver behemoth stepped forward, his armor gleaming under the red emergency lights. He was at least 7 feet tall, covered in thick, overlapping carapace plates, and wielding a plasma blade the size of a surfboard. "You will not leave this ship alive," the warlord growled. Jack clenched his jaw. "Yeah, watch me." The warlord versus the humans. Jack barely had time to dodge before the warlord swung his blade, carving a scorching arc through the air where Jack had been standing a second earlier. The heat from the near miss singed his jacket. Lisa fired a rapid burst of shots at the warlord's chest, but the alien's armor absorbed every blast like a sponge. "Okay," she muttered, reloading. "That's not fair." Vasquez analyzed the armor plating on her wrist scanner. "He's got adaptive shielding. Our weapons aren't strong enough." Sparky grinned wildly. "Then let's get creative." He snatched a plasma rifle off a fallen Zelver soldier, flipped it backward, and hurled it like a javelin at the warlord's face. The warlord effortlessly caught it midair. Sparky blinked. "Okay, didn't expect that." The warlord crushed the rifle in his bare hands. "Yeah, new plan." Sparky yelped, diving for cover. Jack didn't waste time. Vasquez, weak points? She scanned furiously. Joints. Back of the neck. But he's too fast. Lisa cracked her knuckles. Then we slow him down. Jack barely had time to process what she meant before Lisa charged straight at the warlord. Lisa and O. But she was already moving with terrifying speed, sliding under the warlord's first swing and coming up behind him. She grabbed the nearest exposed tube on his armor, some kind of coolant line, and ripped it out with both hands. A hissing jet of freezing gas erupted from the warlord's back. He roared in fury, stumbling forward. Now! Lisa yelled. Jack didn't hesitate. He vaulted over cover, grabbed a fallen Zelver rifle, and fired directly into the exposed joint on the warlord's back. The warlord let out a guttural snarl as the shot pierced his weakened armor, sending him crashing to the ground. For a second, everything was silent. Then Sparky leaned over the unconscious warlord and gave him a small poke with his boot. Huh, thought that'd be harder. Lisa smirked. You're welcome. Jack grabbed her hand, squeezing it tight. Remind me to never piss you off. Lisa grinned. Too late for that, babe. The Great Escape. Vasquez checked her scanner. Bad news. More Zelver troops inbound. We need to move. Now. Reggie looked at the sealed hangar doors. How do we get back to our ship? Sparky grinned. Like this. He pulled out one last explosive device and hurled it at the blast doors. Sparky, no. Boom. The doors burst apart, revealing the docking bay, and their ship, still miraculously intact. Jack didn't hesitate. Move. The team sprinted toward the vessel, dodging plasma fire as Zelver reinforcements poured into the bay. Lisa and Jack covered the rear, firing at anything that moved while Vasquez sprinted ahead, activating the ship's engines remotely. Sparky dived into the cockpit, yanking the controls. Buckle up, nerds, we're out of here. The ship roared to life, hovering just as Zelver fighters swooped in to intercept. Incoming hostiles. Vasquez shouted. Jack strapped in. Sparky. Already on it. Sparky slammed the throttle forward, sending the ship into a wild spin just as the fighters opened fire. A dozen plasma bolts whizzed past, barely missing them. Lisa gripped Jack's hand, her adrenaline still surging. This is the dumbest thing we've ever done. Jack grinned. Yeah, isn't it great? Vasquez furiously tapped at the console. Jump drive charging now. The Zelver flagship loomed behind them, its main cannons locking on, and then with a final burst of light, their ship vanished into hyperspace. Aftermath. Humans are a problem. Deep in the ruined corridors of the Zelver mothership, the warlord staggered to his feet, clutching his wounded side. A nearby Zelver officer approached cautiously. Orders, sir? The warlord's mandibles clicked in frustration. Begin damage assessment. Prepare for pursuit. A pause. Sir, should we alert high command? The warlord stared at the wreckage, then at the empty space where the humans had disappeared. His claws tightened into fists. No, he growled. Let them fear us first.